Chosen one, listen carefully. They told your partner lies just to break what you built. They whispered doubt into the one relationship that was actually real, and they did it on purpose, with a plan, with patience. And now, karma struck back so hard, it took their own relationship down with it. Let that land for a second. The same mouth that poisoned your partner against you is now standing alone, watching their own partner walk out the door for good. You didn't do anything to them. You didn't lift a finger. You just kept loving, kept showing up, kept staying quiet while they worked behind your back. And the universe, it was taking notes the whole time. This is bigger than one bad relationship or one bad friend, chosen one. It means the universe doesn't forget who tried to steal peace from someone else's life. It means every quiet lie eventually gets weighed, every whispered comment eventually gets counted, and every person who thought they could reshape your love story from the shadows eventually has to answer for it in their own. Here's the part they never expected. You were never supposed to find out how deep it went. The comments dropped in private messages. The just looking out for you conversations that were really seeds of doubt. The stories twisted just enough to plant a question mark where trust used to be. They built it slow, brick by brick, so nothing would look like sabotage. It would just look like your partner changing, like the relationship running its course, like something that was nobody's fault. That was the plan, and for a while, it worked. Your partner got colder, quieter, started asking questions that didn't sound like your partner at all. You felt it before you could name it. Something shifted, and you couldn't figure out where it came from. Now you know. It came from them. They thought they were untouchable while they did it. They thought as long as they kept their hands clean in public, nobody would ever trace the coldness back to its source. They thought your relationship would simply erode on its own timeline, quietly, without a single fingerprint anywhere near the wreckage. But here's what they didn't calculate. Karma doesn't knock. It kicks the door in when it's time, and it doesn't check who's watching when it does. Think about how much restraint it took to not lash out while all of this was happening around you. You could have gone looking for answers. You could have confronted your partner over and over, demanding to know where the coldness was coming from. You could have let the confusion turn you bitter, suspicious, guarded in ways that would have made the lie easier to believe. You didn't. You just kept being you, and that decision, more than anything else, is exactly what the rest of this story is about to prove was right all along. Before we go further, hit like and subscribe, chosen one, not as a favor, but as payment, a way of feeding this message back into the universe so it reaches the next person who needs to hear their name cleared too. Because this isn't just a story. This is a verdict already being delivered. Now let's break it all the way down, chapter by chapter, chosen one. Because what happened to you and what's happening to them right now, none of it was an accident. Number 1, the lie that was built to break you. They didn't wake up one day and decide to ruin your relationship out of nowhere. This was slow. This was deliberate. This was a plan they told themselves was justified, dressed up as concern, dressed up as loyalty, dressed up as just looking out for you. But underneath all of it was one simple motive. They wanted what you had, or they couldn't stand that you had it at all. Either way, the target wasn't random. It was you, specifically, and the relationship you built with your own 2 hands. They studied it first, quietly. They watched how your partner talked about you, watched what made your partner proud, watched what made your partner insecure. And then they used every piece of it. A comment here about how you never listen. A joke there about how you always seem distracted. A concerned question about whether your partner was really happy, whether they'd noticed you pulling away. None of it was true. All of it was calculated. They weren't trying to help. They were trying to plant something small enough to survive without being noticed, and grow it slowly enough that nobody would ever trace it back to the source. Here's what they didn't understand about the thing they were trying to destroy. A real bond doesn't break from one lie. It takes repetition. It takes patience. It takes someone willing to keep showing up with a new version of the same poison, week after week, month after month, dressed in a different outfit every time, so it never looks like the same hand doing the damage. And they were willing to do that. That's how far they were willing to go, just to take something that was never theirs to take. You felt the shift before you had proof. That's how these things work. The proof always comes last. First comes the silence, the sudden distance, the questions that don't sound like your partner's own voice. You probably blamed yourself. You probably ran through everything you could have done differently, searching for a reason that made sense. But there was no reason on your end. The reason was sitting somewhere else entirely, smiling every time your partner came to them just to talk. They even played the comfort role while doing it. Whenever your partner seemed unsure or upset, they were right there with a shoulder, a listening ear, a "you can always talk to me about this." That wasn't kindness. That was positioning. They needed to be the trusted voice in the room when the doubt they planted finally started to bloom, so that when your partner finally cracked, they'd be the first person standing there to catch the fall, not you. And now, chosen one, that same person is finding out exactly what it feels like to have someone they trust turn cold on them for reasons they can't explain. Funny how fast the story flips when the universe decides it's their turn to sit in the dark, wondering what happened, wondering who said what, wondering why the person they love suddenly can't look them in the eye. Think about the effort that took. Think about how much energy goes into keeping a lie alive for months, remembering which version you told which person, keeping your face calm while your target's whole world quietly rearranges itself around a story you invented. That's not a small thing. That's a full-time occupation, run in secret, funded entirely by someone else's peace. And people who spend that much of themselves tearing something down rarely have anything left over to build something real of their own. That imbalance always catches up eventually. It just did. Number 2. Why they chose your relationship as the target. They didn't attack just anything of yours. They went straight for the one thing that made you feel safe. That wasn't a coincidence. People who operate like this don't attack randomly. They study what actually holds a person together, and then they aim directly at it, because they know that's where the real damage lives. Your career, they could ignore. Your friendships, they could tolerate. But your relationship, the place where you felt seen, understood, chosen, that was the one thing they couldn't stand existing peacefully. So that's exactly where they went. Ask yourself honestly, why your relationship? Why not someone else's? Because yours worked. Because yours was real. Because yours didn't need an audience to prove it was solid. And that, to someone who thrives on control and comparison, is unbearable. They don't attack chaos. Chaos doesn't threaten them. They attack peace, because peace is the one thing they can't fake and can't stand watching someone else hold on to without them. They convince themselves they had a right to interfere. That's how people like this always justify it. They tell themselves they're protecting your partner from you, that they see something you don't, that they're the only one brave enough to say the hard truth. But there was no hard truth. There was only a story they needed to be true, because the real truth, that your relationship was solid and they had no place in it, was something they couldn't accept. Somewhere underneath the whole plan was jealousy wearing a disguise. Maybe it was jealousy of what you had built. Maybe it was jealousy of how easy it looked from the outside, even though you know exactly how much work went into it. Maybe it was simply that they couldn't stand watching two people choose each other every single day while their own life felt scattered and unstable. Whatever it was never about you being wrong for your partner. It was about them not being able to sit comfortably next to something that worked. People who are genuinely at peace with their own life don't spend their free time trying to unravel someone else's. That instinct only shows up in people who are measuring their own worth against what they see around them, and losing that comparison every single time they look at something as steady as what you and your partner had. Instead of asking why their own life felt unstable, it was easier to try to make yours match it. They didn't expect that the very thing they were trying to poison would end up exposing them instead. Because a lie can bend a relationship for a while, but it can't hold it forever. Eventually, questions get asked. Eventually, someone wants receipts. Eventually, the story that made sense for a few weeks starts falling apart under its own weight, and the person who built it has nowhere left to hide. Here's the part that should sit heavy with you, chosen one, in the best way. While they were busy trying to unravel what you and your partner built, they were building nothing of their own. No trust, no loyalty, no real connection that could survive a single lie, let alone the pile they were stacking on top of your life. They spent so much energy trying to dismantle something real that they never noticed how hollow their own foundation had become. And hollow things, eventually, cave in. It's worth sitting with the irony here, chosen one. They wanted the feeling of what you had, the closeness, the safety, the daily choosing. But instead of building that for themselves, they tried to borrow it by breaking yours apart, as if tearing down someone else's home could somehow furnish their own. It never works that way. Peace isn't something you can steal from someone else's life and transplant into yours. It has to be built, slowly, honestly, the exact way you built what they couldn't stand to watch. Number 3. The whispers your partner never told you about. There were conversations happening that you were never part of. Late-night messages, just checking on you, calls that lasted longer than they should have. Comments slipped in during moments when your partner was already tired, already vulnerable, already more likely to let a small doubt take root instead of shaking it off. That's not an accident either. People who plant lies for a living know exactly when to plant them. Not when someone is steady, when someone is exhausted. Your partner didn't tell you, not because they were hiding something shameful, but because the doubts didn't feel real enough to say out loud yet. That's how this kind of manipulation survives. It doesn't ask you to believe a lie all at once. It asks you to consider a question. Have you noticed they've been distant? Do you think they still make time for you the way they used to? I just don't want you getting hurt. Each question sounds caring on its own. Stacked together, they're a demolition plan. Think about how calculated that timing actually was. Never during a good week, never right after a moment that reminded your partner why they chose you in the first place. Always during the quiet stretches, the tired stretches, the stretches where a small doubt has nowhere to bump up against evidence that contradicts it. That's not concern. That's someone waiting patiently for the exact right conditions to plant something and knowing precisely when those conditions would show up. And the whole time, you had no idea any of it was happening. You were just living your life, loving your partner the same way you always had, completely unaware that somewhere else, someone was working overtime to make your partner question everything you'd built together. That's the cruelest part of this whole thing. You weren't given a chance to defend yourself because you didn't even know you were on trial. But here's what they forgot to account for. Real love doesn't disappear because someone asks a few pointed questions. It gets shaken, sure. It gets confused, absolutely. But it doesn't just vanish, not when the foundation was actually solid. So while they were out there planting seeds, hoping for a harvest of doubt big enough to end things for good, what they actually got was a relationship that bent under pressure and then, slowly, started asking its own questions right back. Questions about who kept bringing this up, questions about who benefited from the distance, questions that, eventually, led straight back to them. There's something worth naming here too, chosen one. Your partner wasn't weak for briefly believing a doubt that wasn't true. That's simply how trust in someone else's version of events can work when it comes from someone who seems close, seems caring, seems to have no reason to lie. The fact that your partner eventually looked past it and chose to see clearly again says everything about the strength of what you two actually have. That's not a small thing to hold on to. Number 4. The night doubt first cracked the door. There's always one night that becomes the turning point, even if nobody realizes it in the moment. For you, it might have been a fight that came out of nowhere, an accusation that didn't sound like it belonged to your partner, a coldness that felt borrowed from somewhere else. You probably tried to talk it through, tried to understand where it was coming from, tried to fix something you couldn't even name yet. That's what it feels like when you're fighting a lie you don't know exists. You keep defending yourself against a version of you that was never real. But here's the thing about doubt planted by someone else's hands. It doesn't fit right. It rubs wrong eventually, because it was never grown from real experience. Your partner started noticing that the things they were being told didn't quite match the person standing in front of them every day. The story said you were distant, but you kept showing up. The story said you didn't care, but you kept trying. And slowly, quietly, that mismatch started to matter. Your partner started keeping their own quiet mental list, even if they never said it out loud. Every time you showed up the way you always had, it chipped away at the version of you someone else had been describing. Every time the concern someone voiced turned out not to match reality, it planted its own small doubt, not about you this time, but about the person doing the warning. That's the moment the ground underneath their plan started to shift, long before anyone said a word about it. That's the exact moment they lost control of their own plan, even if they didn't know it yet. Because a lie only works as long as reality doesn't contradict it too often. And you, chosen one, without even trying, without even knowing you were being tested, kept living in a way that made the lie harder and harder to believe. Your consistency became the proof they never wanted your partner to find. There's something worth remembering here for anyone listening who's currently in the middle of their own version of this. You don't fight a lie by matching its intensity. You fight it by simply continuing to be exactly who you already are, over and over, until the gap between the story and the reality becomes too wide for anyone to keep ignoring. That's not passive. That's the most active thing you can do, because it's the one move a manufactured lie has no answer for. Meanwhile, in their own life, cracks were already starting to show that had nothing to do with you at all. Because someone who spends that much energy managing a lie about your relationship has very little energy left to manage the truth in their own. They were so focused on breaking what you had that they stopped paying attention to what they were losing in real time. And people notice when someone is more invested in someone else's relationship than their own. Their own partner noticed first. That's the part that always gets missed in stories like this. Obsession with someone else's life is never free. It costs attention, it costs presence, it costs the small daily moments that actually hold a relationship together. Every hour they spent crafting the next comment to feed your partner's doubt was an hour they weren't spending on their own person, their own home, their own foundation. They were so busy watching your house for cracks that they never noticed theirs had already started to split. Number 5. Someone was always watching the setup. Here's what they never planned for. Somewhere in the middle of all their careful moves, someone else was paying attention. Not you, someone outside of it. A mutual friend, a co-worker. Someone with no reason to lie, no investment in the outcome, just a clear enough view to see the pattern forming. People like this always assume nobody's watching closely enough to connect the dots. They're wrong more often than they think. This person noticed the timing. Noticed how every time your relationship hit a rough patch, this same individual was somehow already in your partner's ear, already offering comfort, already positioned perfectly to benefit from the distance. Noticed how the concern always seemed to arrive right when things were going well for you, never during actual hard times. That kind of pattern doesn't stay invisible forever. Eventually, someone puts it together. Maybe it started as a small, offhand comment that didn't sit right, a joke that felt a little too specific, a detail about your relationship that this person had no real way of knowing unless someone had been talking. Small things like that don't mean much on their own, but this witness kept collecting them anyway, almost without meaning to, the way people do when something feels slightly off, but they can't yet explain why. And once someone starts watching for a pattern, they can't unsee it. Every comment gets reread, every conversation gets replayed, and what looked like innocent concern from a distance starts looking exactly like what it was up close. An engineered campaign to break something that never belonged to them to break. That witness didn't say anything right away. These things rarely explode immediately. They sit, they build, they wait for the moment where speaking up will actually land, instead of getting dismissed as drama. That moment was coming, chosen one, whether they knew it or not. Because the universe doesn't need you to expose a lie yourself. Sometimes it just needs one person paying attention at the right time, in the right room, with nothing to gain and nothing to lose by finally saying what they saw. You never asked this witness to watch. You never asked anyone to keep score on your behalf. But that's exactly how the universe tends to work when someone tries to quietly destroy something honest. It doesn't rely on the person being wronged to catch the wrongdoing. It puts an ordinary, unconnected pair of eyes in the right place at the right time, and lets patience do the rest. Number 6. The same poison they fed you, they fed their own house. Here's where it gets almost poetic. People who manipulate one relationship rarely stop there. It becomes a pattern, a way of operating, a comfort zone. The same tactics they use to plant doubt in your relationship, the questions, the just looking out for you comments, the perfectly timed concern, those don't stay contained to one target. They leak. They show up in every relationship this person touches, including their own. Their partner started noticing things too. Started noticing how this person always seemed to know a little too much about other people's relationships. Always had an opinion about what was really happening behind closed doors. Always seemed just a little too invested in situations that weren't theirs to be invested in. And their partner started asking the obvious question. If they talk about other people's relationships like this, what do they say about ours when I'm not in the room? Think about what that discovery actually feels like from the inside. You're used to someone being your comfort, your confidant, the person you assumed was always in your corner. And then, slowly, you start realizing they've been playing a version of that same role in somebody else's life, except with a knife hidden behind the comfort. That realization doesn't stay contained to just one relationship you're worried about. It rewrites how you see every conversation you've ever had with that person. That question doesn't have a comfortable answer, not for someone who's spent months quietly working to unravel yours. Because the truth is, people who manipulate don't usually manipulate just once. It's a muscle they exercise everywhere, on everyone, including the person sharing their bed. And once their partner started looking for the same pattern that eventually exposed them to you, it didn't take long to find it, because it was never hidden that well to begin with. It was just never pointed at them before. This is the part where the story stops being about you and starts being about consequence. You didn't have to do anything for this shift to begin. You just had to keep living your truth long enough for the lie to run out of places to hide. Patterns like this rarely stay contained to just two households either. If they were willing to plant doubt in your relationship for reasons that were never really about you, chances are Yours wasn't the only story they quietly interfered with. Somewhere else, someone else is probably starting to connect their own dots too, starting to notice the same fingerprints on their own confusion. That's how patterns work. They repeat until someone finally names them out loud. Number 7. The questions their partner started asking. It starts small, the same way it started small for you. A comment that doesn't sit right. A story that doesn't quite add up. A version of events that contradicts something they said just weeks earlier. Their partner didn't wake up one day and decide to distrust them out of nowhere. It built the exact same way doubt built in your relationship, except this time the doubt was earned, because this time it was true. Why does he always talk about this couple's problems like he knows more than he's saying? Why does she get defensive when I ask what she actually said to them? Why do the details keep changing depending on who's in the room? These are the kinds of questions that don't disappear once they're asked. They multiply. And unlike the lies planted about your relationship, these questions had real evidence behind them. Messages, timelines, patterns that didn't require any manipulation to notice, because the manipulation was the evidence. Their partner started replaying old arguments, old excuses, old moments that had been brushed off at the time, but suddenly made a lot more sense in this new light. That's how it always goes, once trust starts to genuinely crack. Every piece of the past gets re-examined, and pieces that used to look harmless start lining up into something that looks a whole lot more deliberate than anyone wanted to admit. Their partner started paying closer attention, the way people do once trust cracks even slightly. And the more they paid attention, the more they saw. Not because anyone told them where to look, but because once you start questioning someone's honesty in one area, you start questioning it everywhere. That's how trust works. It's not selective. It doesn't stay intact in one part of a relationship while collapsing in another. Once it cracks all the way through. And chosen one, here's the part that should sit with you the longest. You never had to say a word to their partner. You never had to defend yourself, expose them, or plead your case to anyone. The same pattern that broke trust in your life quietly built the case against them in theirs, without your help, without your knowledge, without you lifting a single finger. Notice the symmetry here too, because it matters. You spent months on the receiving end of doubt you didn't deserve, wondering what was true and what wasn't. Now the person who caused that confusion is sitting in the exact same seat, except this time the doubt is earned. This time the questions have real answers waiting underneath them, and this time there's no version of the story where they come out looking like the one who was wronged. Number 8. The proof that surfaced on its own. Every lie leaves a trail eventually. Messages don't disappear the way people think they do. Screenshots exist. Timelines exist. Someone always remembers a date, a comment, a moment that seemed small at the time, but suddenly matters enormously in hindsight. The proof was never really hidden. It was just waiting for someone to be motivated enough to look for it. And their partner, once the questions started, had every reason in the world to look. What they found wasn't subtle once it was laid out in order. Messages that showed the timing lined up too perfectly to be coincidence. Comments that revealed exactly how much effort had gone into stirring doubt in a relationship that had nothing to do with them. A pattern of behavior that made it painfully obvious this wasn't concern. This was interference, deliberate and sustained. And once evidence like that exists in black and white, there's no soft explanation left. There's no, "You're reading too much into it." There's just the truth, sitting there, undeniable. Some of it came from the messages themselves, dates and times that matched exactly with the moments your relationship had felt shakiest. Some of it came from mutual friends who, once asked directly, no longer felt any reason to protect someone who clearly hadn't been protecting anyone else. Once one thread got pulled, the rest came apart fast. because this kind of pattern never survives close inspection, it only survives assumption. This is what happens when someone builds their entire strategy on the assumption that nobody would ever check. They count on people being too trusting, too busy, too kind to dig. But eventually, someone digs. And when they do, everything that was carefully hidden gets pulled into the light all at once. Not in pieces, but in a flood that's impossible to explain away. You didn't need to gather this evidence. You didn't need to build this case. The universe assigned that job to someone with a front row seat to the same behavior, aimed at them this time. And once the proof surfaced, there was no version of events left where they came out looking innocent. There's a certain kind of justice in that, chosen one. The kind that doesn't require you to raise your voice or prove a single thing. The same messages that once made your relationship feel shaky became the exact material that made theirs collapse. The tools they used against you became the evidence used against them. Nothing had to be manufactured. It was all right there, waiting for the right person to finally read it in order. Number 9. The circle that turned its back on them. It's never just one person who notices. Once the first crack shows, others start remembering their own small moments of unease around this person. Comments that felt slightly off. Advice that always seemed to benefit them somehow. Concern that only ever showed up at convenient times. Mutual friends who once laughed along, who once believed the version of events they were being fed, start comparing notes. And when people compare notes, patterns that stayed invisible for months become obvious in a single conversation. That's when the real isolation begins for them, chosen one. Not the isolation you might have felt when your partner started pulling away because of their lies, but a different kind. The kind that comes from an entire circle quietly deciding they can no longer trust someone they used to defend. Invitations stop. Conversations get shorter. People who used to include them in everything start leaving them out of things without ever explaining why, because at this point, no explanation is owed. Some of those same friends probably feel a quiet guilt now too, for having believed the version of events they were handed at the time, for having distanced themselves from you without ever hearing your side. But that guilt is exactly what turns into loyalty once the truth is finally visible. People who feel like they got played once tend to become the fiercest defenders of the truth the second time, because they don't want to be fooled twice. They'll tell themselves people are overreacting. They'll tell themselves nobody understands the full story. But the truth is simpler than that. People understand exactly enough. They understand that someone spent real time and real effort trying to destroy something good that belonged to someone else. And that kind of behavior doesn't stay contained to one relationship. It reveals character. And once character is revealed, people don't usually forget what they saw. This is the part where the whispering finally flips direction for good. The same person who once whispered lies into your partner's ear is now the subject of whispers themselves. Except this time, every word being said is true. Isolation like this doesn't happen because a group of people decided to be cruel. It happens because trust, once it's gone, doesn't get handed back automatically. People aren't punishing them out of spite. They're simply protecting themselves the same way your partner eventually had to, by keeping distance from someone who's already shown exactly what they're capable of doing when they think no one's paying attention. And notice, chosen one, that none of this required anyone to organize against them. Nobody held a meeting. Nobody built a coalition. People simply, individually, quietly, arrived at the same conclusion once they had the same information. That's what real character does when it's finally visible. It doesn't need a campaign against it. It speaks for itself, loud enough that everyone who sees it clearly ends up walking the same direction, away. Number 10. The night their partner walked out. There's always a final night, chosen one. the one where pretending stops being possible. For their partner, it wasn't one dramatic confrontation out of nowhere. It was the accumulation of every small inconsistency finally reaching a point where silence wasn't an option anymore. The messages, the timeline, the pattern that mutual friends had already started talking about, all of it converging into one conversation that couldn't be avoided any longer. Picture it. The same confidence this person used to plant doubt into your relationship, gone the second it was turned back on them. The same calm, reassuring tone they used to convince your partner that something was wrong with you, nowhere to be found when their own partner asked them to explain the messages, the timing, the pattern of interference in someone else's life. There's no smooth explanation for behavior like that. There's no version of, "I was just being a good friend," that survives real scrutiny. There's a particular kind of silence that happens when someone finally realizes they have no answer left to give. Not an angry silence, a defeated one. The kind where you can see someone doing the math in real time, realizing every excuse they could offer would only confirm what their partner already suspected. That silence said more than any argument could have. It was the sound of a story finally running out of road. And so their partner did what people do when trust collapses all the way through. They left. Not out of spite, not out of revenge, but because once you see someone clearly enough, once you understand exactly what they're capable of doing to people who trust them, staying becomes impossible. If they did this to someone else's relationship without hesitation, without guilt, without ever stopping to consider the damage, what does that say about what they're capable of doing in their own? That question is the one they'll never be able to answer their way out of. And chosen one, notice something important here. You didn't cause this. You didn't orchestrate it. You didn't even know it was happening until it already had. This is what happens when the universe decides a debt needs to be paid. It doesn't ask your permission, it just collects. Nights like that don't stay contained to just one conversation either. There are the days after, the quiet apartment, the group chat that suddenly feels different, the mutual friends who ask careful, cautious questions instead of casual ones. That's the real cost of what they built. Not a single bad night, but an entire life quietly rearranging itself around the moment the truth finally became impossible to outrun. Number 11. The public collapse they couldn't spin. For a while, they managed the story. They controlled what people heard, when they heard it, and how it was framed. That's what manipulators do best. They manage perception. But perception only holds up as long as reality doesn't contradict it too loudly. And this time, reality got loud. Once mutual friends knew, once their own partner had walked away, once the pattern was out in the open, there was no narrative left to manage. The story was telling itself now, without their input, without their spin, without their control. They tried, of course. People like this always try. A vague post about toxic people without naming anyone. A version of events shared with whoever would still listen, painting themselves as misunderstood instead of exposed. But the people who mattered, the ones who had actually seen the evidence, weren't buying it anymore. You can survive one person doubting you. It's much harder to survive an entire circle quietly agreeing on what they witnessed. Watch how fast the sympathy dries up once real evidence enters a room. The vague posts stop getting the comments they used to get. The "you're so strong for going through this" replies stop showing up. People start quietly unfollowing instead of engaging, because nobody wants to publicly defend a story they privately know isn't true anymore. That kind of silence, the disappearance of support that used to be automatic, is its own kind of verdict. This is the part where the humiliation becomes public in a way they never experienced when it was your relationship being torn apart. Because when it was happening to you, it happened in private, in whispered conversations you weren't part of. When it happened to them, It happened in full view, with witnesses, with receipts, with a former partner who had every reason to make sure the truth didn't stay quiet. You never asked for any of this to become public. You never needed an audience to know your relationship was solid. But they built their entire plan on secrecy, and secrecy, once broken, doesn't offer a second chance to hide again. Compare that, chosen one, to how you handled the whole thing. You never posted anything. You never needed strangers or mutual friends to pick a side for you. You just kept living, kept loving, kept being who you were before any of this started. The contrast between that and their scramble to control a story already out of their hands says more about the two of you than either version of events ever could. Number 12. Why your silence was never weakness. Through all of this, chosen one, notice what you didn't do. You didn't chase your partner down, demanding explanations for a coldness you couldn't name. You didn't confront the person spreading lies about you, even when you probably suspected something wasn't right. You didn't turn your relationship into a battlefield, trying to defend yourself against an enemy you couldn't see. You just kept showing up, kept being consistent, kept being exactly who you'd always been, and let that consistency speak louder than any accusation ever could. That wasn't weakness. That was the only strategy that could have actually worked, even if you didn't choose it consciously. People who plant lies are counting on a reaction. They want you to panic, to over-explain, to get defensive in ways that make the lie look true. The moment you start scrambling to prove you're not what they said you are, you start looking exactly like what they said you were. You never gave them that. You just stayed steady. And steady is the one thing a manufactured lie can never survive standing next to for long. That kind of steadiness isn't always easy to hold on to. And it's fair to admit that. There were probably nights you wondered if you were imagining the distance, days you second-guessed your own read on things, moments where staying calm felt more like exhaustion than strength. That's real, and it deserves to be said plainly. But choosing to stay grounded instead of spiraling, choosing honest conversation with your partner over resentment, choosing to keep loving well instead of shutting down, that's what actually gave the truth room to breathe and eventually be seen. Your partner needed time to see through what was being planted, and you gave them that time without even realizing it was a gift. Every day you kept loving without conditions. Every day you kept showing up without resentment was another day the lie had to survive against a reality that kept proving it wrong. Lies are exhausting to maintain. Truth isn't. And eventually, exhaustion always loses to consistency. You didn't need to expose anyone. You didn't need receipts of your own. You just needed to keep being real long enough for someone else's fake version of you to collapse under its own weight. And that's exactly what happened. This is the quiet power nobody talks about enough, chosen one. Not the loud kind, not the kind that shows up in a viral moment or a dramatic confrontation, but the kind that just keeps showing up, day after day, unimpressed by rumor, unmoved by whispers, simply continuing to love and to live honestly, while everything false eventually runs out of oxygen around it. That kind of power doesn't need an audience to be real. It just needs time, and time was always on your side. Number 13. The verdict the universe already delivered. What happened here wasn't random, chosen one, and it wasn't luck. It was balance. Someone tried to take something that wasn't theirs to take, using lies as the tool, using your partner's trust as the weapon, using patience as their cover. And the same patience they thought was working in their favor became the thing that eventually exposed them, because lies require constant maintenance, and maintenance eventually slips. The verdict isn't loud. It doesn't come with an announcement or an apology you'll ever actually receive. It comes quietly, in the form of an empty seat where their partner used to sit, in the form of a group chat they're no longer part of. in the form of friends who used to defend them, now going quiet whenever their name comes up. That's what real consequence looks like. Not dramatic, just final. Notice, too, that none of this required you to become someone you're not. You didn't have to turn cold, or bitter, or suspicious of everyone around you to get here. You didn't have to burn the relationship down to prove a point. The people worth keeping in your life, your partner included, are still there. Because real trust survives real testing. That's the version of justice worth wanting, one that doesn't cost you your own peace to receive. You were never on trial, even though it felt that way for a while. They were. The whole time, while they were busy building a case against you out of nothing, the universe was quietly building the actual case, the real one, out of everything they did, while thinking nobody was watching. And when that case came due, there was no lawyer, no excuse, no charm offensive that could talk their way out of it. You get to walk away from this with your relationship intact, your integrity intact, and a truth nobody can ever take from you again. They get to walk away from this with none of it. That's not revenge, chosen one. That's simply what happens when the truth finally gets the microphone it was always owed. There's a reason stories like this tend to resolve exactly this way, and it isn't magic. People who build on lies are always racing against time, because every day that passes is another day reality has a chance to contradict them. People who build on truth, even quietly, even slowly, are never racing against anything. Time was always working for you, chosen one. Even during the months it felt like it was working against you. Number 14. What comes next is yours alone. Here's where this really ends, chosen one, and where your part in the story actually begins again. Because everything up to this point was about them, about what they did, about what caught up to them. But now the chapter closes on that, and what's left is yours. Your relationship, tested by something you didn't even know was happening, still standing. Your partner, who questioned things they shouldn't have had to question, choosing you anyway once the truth was clear. Your peace, finally uninterrupted by whispers you can't see. You don't owe them anything, not an explanation, not a confrontation, not even your attention going forward. Let them sit with what they built. Let them explain to whoever's left listening why the people who trusted them most stopped trusting them entirely. That's their work to do now, not yours. You already did yours, simply by staying real when it would have been easier to spiral. And if you and your partner are still rebuilding some of that trust right now, still having the honest conversations that should have happened months ago, let that process take the time it needs. The goal was never to win a war against the person who lied. The goal was always the relationship itself, the one worth protecting, the one now stronger for having survived something it should never have had to survive in the first place. This isn't the end of your story, chosen one. It's the part where the noise finally clears and you get to hear your own life again, without someone else's lies competing for space in it. What comes next isn't about them at all. It's about you and the person who chose to see the truth, even after being fed something false. Hold on to that. Build from that. Let the rest stay exactly where it landed, behind you. Maybe there's still healing ahead, still small moments of rebuilding to do with your partner, and that's all right. Trust doesn't have to snap back overnight to be real. What matters is that the direction has changed, that the two of you are moving toward each other again, instead of being quietly pulled apart by someone who never had your best interest at heart. That direction is everything. Protect it the same steady way you protected it, without even knowing you were doing it the first time. Number 15. The lesson hiding underneath the whole story. Here's what this whole chapter of your life was quietly teaching you, chosen one, even while it hurt. Not everyone who smiles at your relationship is rooting for it. Not every concerned comment comes from a place of care. And not every silence from your partner means the relationship is failing. Sometimes it just means someone is being pulled by a version of events that hasn't caught up to reality yet. That's a hard lesson, but it's not one that should make you distrust every person around you going forward. It's one that should make you trust your own steadiness a little more. Because that's really what carried you through this, chosen one. Not luck, not revenge, not a dramatic confrontation you never had to have. It was your own consistency, your own refusal to become someone unrecognizable just because someone else was working hard to make you look that way. That's a quality worth protecting, worth being proud of, worth remembering the next time doubt shows up, uninvited, in any part of your life, relationship or otherwise. And here's the part that matters most going forward. This isn't a lesson about becoming guarded or suspicious of everyone who gets close to you and your partner. Most people who show concern actually mean it. Most conversations about your relationship really are just conversations. The lesson isn't to trust no one. It's to trust what's real, to trust the version of your partner and your relationship you've actually lived, over any second-hand story someone else is trying to hand you. That instinct, once you learn to lean on it, will serve you for the rest of your life, long after this particular chapter has closed for good. Chosen one, if this message found you at exactly the right moment, drop 77 in the comments right now and let the universe know you're still standing, still steady, still exactly who you always were, no matter what anyone tried to convince the people around you otherwise. And if this truth is fueling something in you, bless the mission with a super thanks. It keeps these messages reaching the next person who needs to hear that karma doesn't miss, it just takes its time. Stay close, because this is just the beginning of what the universe has lined up next. So let's close this out the way it deserves. Chosen one, calm and clear. They spent real time trying to poison something real, using lies as their only weapon, and every single lie eventually turned around and pointed straight back at them. Their own house fell the same way they tried to make yours fall, except yours never actually did. You stayed. You loved without conditions. You let the truth do the work you never had to do yourself. Whatever they were hoping to gain by breaking what you built, they lost it the moment their own foundation gave out instead. That's not a coincidence, and it was never going to be a coincidence, because that's simply how balance works when it's given enough time to catch up with the truth. You didn't need to chase it. You didn't need to speed it up. You just needed to stay exactly who you were, long enough to watch it arrive on its own. And now, while they're left explaining an empty side of the bed to anyone who will still listen, you're standing exactly where you always deserve to be, chosen, protected, and proven right. Thanks for watching, chosen ones. We will see you in the next video. Until then, take care and goodbye.